there, patrons. So this is going to be a requested video. It was actually requested, and over the years I've actually advised people quite a few times about this, so I decided I should make a video on it, make it early access for the patrons, put it up on YouTube at a later date, because I think it's a really useful tidbit of information. So this is Witch Tips, the best way to burn a loose incense or loose smudge. So if you've been in the community any length of time, it's likely that you know about this method. Now, I don't think this is personally the best method for burning a loose incense or smudge. This is the charcoal method. It's in a terracotta pot on some sand, which is the safest way to heat disperse, and you light the charcoal disc from underneath and it burns through and it gets hot, and you put the incense on top of it. It's not a bad method, I'm not slating it or anything like that, and I do still use it for certain things. But for many people, they struggle with the charcoal method because it creates an awful lot of smoke. It's obviously hot for a long time, so you either need like a terracotta dish like this, or more ideally like a big cauldron. It's better suited for outdoor ritual rather than inside, and you can actually lose the scent of certain smudges because of the delicate nature of some herbs. Some resins get kind of lost in that charcoal smell. So whilst I think the method that I'm going to talk to you about now is the best method, it is my personal opinion, but I prefer it to this method in most circumstances. So I did just want to mention that that is one of the ways that you have probably heard of burning loose incenses, but we are going to, here on the working altar, show you guys a different method, the method that I prefer, and talk through the individual steps if you were bringing this into ritual and how I would do it. So we're just going to move this out the way for now, forever, and we're going to talk about this method. So this is an oil burner, that's what they're usually called, where you usually put a melt in here, or a oil in some oil, you know what I mean, a scent in an oil, and you put a tea light down below, and you go ahead and use it like an oil burner. Now, you can use this in what is probably best known as the cooking method for loose incenses and loose smudges. Now you can see I have a crystal in here. We're going to be talking about that in a minute, but I'm just going to talk to you through the things that we require for this method before I talk through the individual steps and what it means spiritually, and so on and so forth, and how I would bring it into ritual. So I would put a crystal in here, so that is one of the things that you might need, and the oil burner is very essential. Obviously, it is key to this method. You can get them pretty much everywhere. I prefer the glass on top. You can get ceramic on top, of course, and I prefer mine like this because it is not so enclosed. It allows the heat to disperse a little bit better. It's entirely personal preference there, but I think it works a little bit better. So here is my bowl of necessity. I amuse myself. Right, so there is a tea light here, which is fairly obvious. I have some beeswax, a little bit of one of my spell oils. This is actually the spell oil for Freya. This is a Starry-Eyed Supplies loose incense smudge. This one is not showing up beautifully on this camera, which is a shame. I had to shut all the curtains. For some reason, even a little bit of light on this camera blew it out. It was so weird. So, can I? That's a little bit better. There you go. So, Healing Waters of Avalon is the culmination of my healing spell range on Starry-Eyed Supplies. I hadn't made a smudge for it, and at the point where it had been 8 years since the inception of this spell line in its original forms, I created a smudge finally. I was finally happy with it. I finally got the scent to where I wanted it to be, which is rain on the lake, rain on the grass, and wind through the forest, and it smells like that. And then I like I said, I have beeswax, mind your beeswax, and the spell oil. So these are the ingredients that I am going to recommend. Beeswax is obviously vegetarian, but not vegan. If you wanted to go for a vegan option, I think you can use, because I haven't done this, but I'm fairly certain you'd be safe using coconut oil, but you should be aware that doing that will affect the scent. It just will. So you obviously, all your smudges, regardless of what they are, will smell slightly of coconut. If you're okay with that, you're okay with that. That's entirely up to you. So those are the ingredients that we are going to require for this method of how to burn a loose smudge in ritual. So the first thing that I then do is I prepare the oil burner. I have cleansed it both physically and spiritually. Now, how can you do that? Well, I use a little Florida water. I don't know where I have put the... I use a little Florida water on a cotton pad and just wiped it all down. Now, then I rinsed it off and rubbed it down very, very much so, because just be aware there is a little alcohol content in Florida water. So you just want to make sure you have thoroughly cleansed it after you've cleansed it. You don't want any alcohol burning at any point inside your oil burner, or that's going to create panic, and yeah, we don't want that at all. And then I have cleansed it. Now you could do that with a smudge stick if you liked. So this is a mugwort smudge stick from Local, and you could smudge away. You could do all sorts of things, but my personal favourite one right now is my mini singing bowl, which energetically resets the intention around the oil burner. You want to do this especially if you've bought an oil burner recently, or you've been using it for other things, or it came from a charity shop. You can often find them in charity shops and things, just to get rid of old energies and so on and so forth. Then I have popped a crystal in here for setting the intention. So you hold the crystal in both hands, or your projective hand if you are that kind of fussy, but I like to have both, because it, especially in healing, because it kind of cups as if we are cupping, receiving and giving at one time. But if you want to go with just projective, you can. And you are speaking to the spirit of the crystal, speaking to the spirits around you, speaking to the spirits of the universe, drawing down those energies into the crystal and preparing the vessel to receive and create. Once you have done that and left that, you might want to leave that you might want to do that at the very beginning of your ritual setup. So while you're still cleansing your space, cleansing yourself, setting your intentions, etc., this has just already been done first and is sitting there ready to go. Because creating the energetic matrix with a loose incense smudge, which I will discuss in a minute, which is the point of my loose incenses, you want that to be ready to go before you want to set up that intention in your space with your smudge or loose incense, depending on. I'm not getting into word wars with it. So then when you're ready to start and you're setting up your physical preparations, lighting your candles, etc., etc., you want to put some beeswax into here. And you may want to add a little oil. Now, you may want to add a little carrier oil anyway, like an olive oil. It's up to you. Olive oil obviously has a little bit of a scent. And you may wish to add spell oils to bring out the intention even more so. Now, I grabbed the Freya oil for this. Freya is someone who comes through for me quite a lot, and she's kind of willing to do some healing work on the vulva side of things, whereas it's not that the Morrigan doesn't do healing, but she has a break it to heal it style, which isn't always what you want in a healing ritual. Sometimes it is, sometimes it is not. So I'm going to actually cut the beeswax off camera and start it melting, because otherwise we're going to be here for way longer. But you are going to light your tea light just before you're ready to add your beeswax, just to get that heat going through. calling on the element of fire and transformation and personal change and shifting, so that we might bring in the energy of healing. Wow, look at that glow. Woo! Love it. Right, so I'm going to turn the camera off right now. I'm going to cut the beeswax and put the beeswax into the thing and let it melt down again, and we will be right back. Okay, so the nice thing about beeswax is it starts melting pretty quickly, so it's already started doing that. I had a block and I just off the end, but you can get pellets and things which can be easier for the circumstances. I don't currently have any pellets, so I'm making do with what I've got. And you can also, of course, locally source beeswax, depending on where you live, fairly easily. But you know, I know we're in lockdown as of when I make this video. I'm aware of that, but I still wanted to make this video. It was a request. So if you can still support your local businesses, who some of whom may sell honey and beeswax, then absolutely do that. That's a great thing to do. Now, we already have the lady over there. She's lit and is glowing. She is a moon goddess. I have her for the overall divine feminine energy. And actually, I will grab the Freya statue. 1 second. So I know, before anybody starts, I know Freya is a warrior goddess. I know she's a goddess of love and relationships. But she's come through for healing for me as well, many times. So there you go. And I could have also, of course, called on Brigitte. Brigitte would have happily come through, and she often does for healing. It's just because this is the spell oil that kind of fell off the shelf when I was looking at doing this, so we're going to be calling on Freya for this. So this is the oil for Freya. Now when you add it to the warm beeswax, it will probably cloud up a little bit, because it's basically adding cold oil to warm beeswax. So you want to do it before it's too hot. You can see it's still melting a little bit in here. So it's just a tip. And as we do so, what I tend to do is I tend to hold my hand over the bottle like so, and I tend to swirl as if we were drinking a fine wine or a whiskey, and call upon the energies of Freya. Now, when I create things, I imbuild the matrix into it, so it's already there. It's already active to some degree, but this just really pumps up the activation energies. Hail to thee, goddess Freya. I call upon you in your divine assistance and ask you to bear witness and assist in any way, shape or form with this healing ritual. Hail to thee, praise to thee, welcome Freya. Oh, she's here. She didn't mind one iota. I could feel the warmth just descend all over my body. So we're actually going to be putting out healing at the same time as doing this video, which is nice. So it is multi-layered, much like the starry-eyed smudges. So, Healing Waters of Avalon. When I create a Simply Starry smudge, I'm just going to pop it down here again. Maybe we'll zoom out a little bit so you can see. Oh no, the wrong way. So you can see the goddess and some of these beautiful herbs and things as we talk about it. Let's just shift slightly so you can see the goddess. There you go. And as I create the Simply Starry smudges, they are designed to be layer upon layer of an energy matrix. They are scent, they are herbs, resins, they are the spirits of the herbs and the resins called on to create a symphony, an energetic weaving, a matrix, which then goes ahead and creates an energetic matrix for you to tap into and create, weave for yourself, become part of the song in your sacred space, in your temple. Smudges should not be, in my opinion, a load of herbs thrown together and that's it. Because if you do not call on the spirits of the plants, if you do not call on the spirits of the resins, if you do not call upon the spirit and the soul and the essence of what you are doing and creating, if you're not weaving from the spiritual ecosystem to create an energetic matrix, an energetic temple that then other people can, or you can, depending on what you're doing with it, tap into, then it's just a jar of herbs. I will say a number of things about this. One thing that really irritates me is when people put a lot of rose petals in smudges. I don't know if you've ever burnt rose petals, but they stink. So I always feel really sorry for people if they don't know that and they buy smudges with a load of rose petals in, because it just doesn't smell nice. Now this method, this cooking method, does alleviate that a little bit because you're cooking rather than burning, but so it does help with that process. And I cut like a few for like a little tiny sprinkling for like decoration. I can understand because they're pretty, but if it's like the main base, I would be like, oh no, no girl, no, or no boy, no, depending. Handy tip for you there when looking at or creating your own smudged loose incense. Do not use excess rose petals. Not good. So let's get back to the energetic matrix. So we by creating an energetic temple, we are creating magic. Sacred space magic in the smudge and in all the products really. But the smudges are my favourite because they layer the spirit of each plant, resin, essential oil. The resins create a grounding matrices and the herbs create like the top symphony, and the essential oils kind of bind them all together. And it just weaves into being. I love layering scent, colour, physical aesthetic, magic, spirit talk. And it's this whole symphony. I can't even really fully explain it to you, but it just... Smudges are my favourite thing to make. Because you can feel the tangible magic. And when it comes out smelling, like I visualise the temple, which is what I do first, for each smudge, which is why they're nearly always temple of something. It needs to smell like I smell that experience on the spiritual ecosystem. It needs to feel and look as a tendril, a thread, a symbol of that temple. So for Temple of the Healing Waters of Avalon, which is 8 years in the making. I'm not even kidding, because I was so fussy about this smudge. It had to be perfect, and if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't going to happen. And over the years, I have made them and been like, nope, it's not perfect. So the Temple of the Healing Waters of Avalon is where I go astrally to heal. It is a temple of the Lake of Avalon. And the priestess is within the water, and she beckons you into the water. And the water is surrounded by trees. And quite frequently it's raining. Purification, water on water, and the earth surrounding. It's very womb-like. It's very like being held. It's very nature-orientated healing. And the spiritual ecosystem weaves through the guardians of the trees and the elements of earth and water and the spirits and the guardians who are being channeled by the priestess of Avalon and yourself, and it draws out negativity, impurity, pain, illness. It just pulls it out and transforms it. It's a major moment of alchemy, and the healing waters of Avalon mean a lot to me. So that's why these smudges in particular have their own energetic matrix. So the cooking method, we're going to add that to that. O healing temple of Avalon, I call upon your power. O healing temple of Avalon, in this second, minute, hour. O healing temple of Avalon, I call you here, be true. I come to partake of healing, for you and I are one, are two. Or do you see the bubble? So it's cooking. Let's zoom in. I obviously did not fill the bowl. You can fill the bowl if you wish. It depends how long you're going for. And you can see there's a light fizzing, but there is not a massive amount of smoke. So if that smoke is massively damaging for you, which it is for a lot of people, or is something you can't cope with, or you're going to set all your fire alarms off, or all that sort of thing, as an indoor method, this is really great. The only heat is coming off the tea light, so you're not really at risk of smashing your glass here. It's a little warm on the side, but to touch, but it's not hot. And obviously you have a bit more beeswax, it will get a little bit warmer. So you want to be careful not to overload, the same way you don't want to overload a charcoal disc, to be honest, because you're risking things. You're better off adding a little and a little more and a little more until you're getting a beautiful scent, because this cooking method is far more scent friendly. This cooking method allows the scent of each individual resin and herb to bubble forth to the surface. And if you have more delicate scents in particular smudges, then you're going to get wee. Plus I love the foaming effect, sorry, completely distracted. But if you have more delicate scent, then you're going to enjoy that a lot better. You're going to get much more out of your personal incense or personal smudge. You basically get a much richer experience from scent. This is why it's my favourite one, because it honours every single scent within the smudge. It doesn't like overpower like charcoal does. Now, I'm not against using charcoal. I think it's great. I have used it. I do still use it. Prefer it for outdoor methods. But personally, I think this method is superior. It allows for... and I can smell those healing waters. So before we go, may everybody who wishes to partake of this healing energy draw upon this energetic matrix. May Freya aid you in your quest to find healing. Thank you, Freya, for being present with all of your energy, with all of your majesty, with all of your magic and wonder. Thank you for assisting me and others who wish to partake of healing at this time. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful and insightful. If you have any questions, you can leave them down below, whether you are on Patreon or seeing this ahead of time, or whether you're seeing this later on YouTube. Let me know and I will do my best to answer them. Many blessings. Catch you next time.